So I have another topic for our Van Vlog Venerdi. The topic is, what is your earliest memory? And I'll have to say, I'm going to have to do earliest memories because I think that memory is not accurate. And I know that's going to sound strange, but it's not accurate. And especially when you're first starting to form memories. I think things kind of get jumbled up, things kind of get confusing. I mean, I actually will do depositions with people that were witnesses in alleged crimes just a couple of months back, and they don't remember what happened or didn't happen. It's not like your first time you remember something, you go, this is really important and I need to remember it. So a lot of the times you probably, your memories are going to get mixed up from when you first start remembering things. So I don't know what order these memories occurred in. So one memory that I had was, not to be graphic, I think one time I remember getting my diaper changed. I don't know how old I was. I could have been 1 or 2, but it was just like, a brief, snippet of my life where I went from getting my diaper changed one time to literally next memory, which could have been months or a year down the road. I don't know. And I hope you're not going to see me. Well, you should be able to see me. Anyways, so the other memory that I have is I remember being up at our cabin, and my mom and dad, before they divorced, we lived in my grandparents' cabin on the river, and my grandfather had a fish pond. He kept little bass in it. I shouldn't say little bass, I don't know what size they were, but he kept bass in this little fish pond, and it was, I don't know, maybe about 3 or 4 feet deep. And so I guess I was looking into the edge of the water, because I mean, you're a little kid, 2 years old, you're interested in fish, and I'm looking at fish. No, I was probably 3 at the time, because I know that my father had gone to law school, and after law school my mother and father and me moved into that cabin. But I was probably around 3 at the time, and I guess I was looking into the fish pond, and I don't remember falling into the fish pond. I just remember, I don't even remember the feel of the water. I know that sounds so strange to me. Like, I don't remember feeling the water at all. Like if you jump into water, you're going to feel it. I don't remember that. All I remember is, I guess I'm looking at fish, and just then the next thing I know, there's all these bubbles around me. And my father tells me the story of, I think he was doing something, and I guess he had turned around, and as kids, we are just so flipping fast when we're that age. We just kind of wander off. I guess he turned around, and I just fell into the fish pond, and then he jumped in after me. I don't remember a whole lot of it after that at all. He said he took me up to my mom, and my mom, I guess, was inside the house. I don't remember any of that. That whole incident is just summed up to, I remember a bunch of bubbles and having this distorted vision, and bubbles come, which makes sense, because I mean, if you're in the water, the light bends in the water, and your vision is distorted. And if someone jumped in, or I felt it, I may have seen my own bubbles. I don't know. Anyways, and I'm trying to think, there was another early memory that I had, and I can't remember it exactly. But I can go over a couple of my other memories. I remember my mom and I, we lived, well, before I get to that, I do remember getting some shots at the doctor's office. And I remember my paternal grandparents were there. And I don't know what doctor's offices I was in, and I can't describe it on video, but I can kind of remember the smell of the doctor's office around me kind of had that sterile, whatever you want to call it, smell, like you go into like a hospital, because I think that's where it was. I think it was somewhat in like a medical facility / hospital, and I can remember that smell, and I remember getting the shot, and I remember crying, like, oh, I was mad. I don't know how old I was, because, you know, when you get shots, you get like your I'm sure it was a vaccine, but you get your shot, and you get your booster shot. I guess I could go look up the records of when I would have had the booster shot or whatnot, and I remember that, and I remember, I believe my grandmother was holding me at one point. I remember that, and I just remember, and it's like I said, like the other memories, it was just real quick, and everything else around it faded away. And like I said, you're not going to be like, oh, I got to remember this is super important. Well, we know it's super important now, but shots, that is. But that's another memory that I have. I also remember living with my mother. We had an apartment at, I've said memories, so we had an apartment, and I'm sure this happened after I fell in the water, just because I know that my mother and father were no longer together when I was living in this apartment. And she took me to go see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs at the movies, and I remember seeing that. That was actually a pretty fond memory there. And it's honestly, as a kid, I thought that movie came out like when I was a kid, and I really know it came out long before I was a kid, long before my mom was a kid. So, have that memory. And I remember my mom, she was dating my stepfather at the time, and I'm going to try to do some quick math here, because they've been together almost 34 years, I think. So yeah, so that's awesome. And but with all that, she was dating my stepfather at the time, and they went to find somebody to, I think, babysit me. And I think there was a couple there, or there was I don't think it was a couple. I think it was a couple of guys who, I guess I don't think they were a couple. Okay, I just think they lived together. They were roommates. And they had this fascinating stereo system, because this is back in, say, like 1986, and it was the state-of-the-art stereo system, and it was in this glass case. And I don't know if I was fascinated with the stereo system or the case it was in, because you could hit the, it's one of those cases where you push in the door, and it kind of pops out. It's kind of got one of those magnetic latches, and you kind of push it in, and it'll pop out. And I think I was fascinated with that. And the guy, I think, told me something about the stereo system was going to eat me if I didn't, if I kept on touching it. And I think you're saying it because, well, I bet money that stereo system is probably the equivalent of whatever top-of-the-line stereo system you have these days. I think they were engineers, because my stepfather's an engineer, and I'm certain the friends he knew and the people that he knew were engineers. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm certain they were engineers, and I just remember that. I just remember being in awe of this stereo system and just being freaked out by it just a couple of minutes later. So I would say that those are probably some of my earliest memories. And like I said, I can't be 100% accurate on it, because it felt like a lot of my earliest memories are just fragmented. They're not succinct. They're not in order, and in any order that I'm applying to them is only coming from the fact that I can look back now, and I've talked to my mom and I've talked to my dad, and I can kind of know when I got my shots in a way. I can just talk to the people around me, and I can kind of see when all of that happened, and I can kind of put things together. But as far as my raw memory is concerned, I have to be honest, I don't really know what order those things happened in. And I'm certain there's probably between all those memories, there's a good 2-year gap between all those memories. I will say that I think I started remembering things on a more like permanent basis probably around the time I was living with my mom in the apartment. And my stepdad, Jeff, he had another apartment in that area. And he started coming over because they were dating. But I'll say that that's when I started to kind of remember. I kind of remember, playing with Jeff, or Jeff, just interacting with him as a child, and going to the movies with my mom. And I'm turning my head because I'm watching for traffic. And just, that's when my memory started to become more solid. So I want to describe to you what my earliest memory is, but I really don't know, like, if I'm being honest, I don't know what my earliest memory is. So, I hope that makes sense. I don't know what it is, but I know what it is. So, anyways, I just want to say thank you again for watching. I hope that y'all have an amazing day. And once again, please like, comment, subscribe. And that didn't sound right. It's like I'm driving and I can't talk straight, but you know what I mean. Y'all have a good one.